Welcome to the Ripple Effect by the Alliance. We are committed to raising the frequency of our planet. We'll discuss hot topics, share practical tools and sacred frequencies to reveal the magic in your life. Come laugh, cry, and have fun with us.
Okay, we are back. The Ripple Effect with the Alliance. We're so excited to be back. And today we have a really cool topic. And yeah, why don't we just jump right in? So I would love, Hannah, if you took the lead on our subject. And let's just jump right in.
Well, this is so interesting because we usually have our own conversations besides all the preparation and everything for the podcast. But we have a group. We work with the lunar energies. We have a meditation group. And in one of our conversations, right after the first podcast, we were talking about something that I called the danger zone. And we started talking about what this danger zone is. And in the moment, we're like, why don't we talk about it next time? Because we have a list, you have no idea how long, on things we want to talk about. And we had, it's like hard to decide, okay, what are we going to talk about next? We have so much. But this just happens so naturally and organic. And I think it's very timely with everything that is going on. So what I've coined the term for is the danger zone. It is the gap that happens between your dreams and yourself when you talk about it with people who love you, especially with people who love you, who want to protect you, who want to make sure that you don't suffer any disappointments in life, right? The thing is that what we crave as human beings is support. It is a cheerleader that will tell us, oh my God, that is crazy, but go for it, right? It really shouldn't matter what our dreams are, in my opinion. However, the people who love us, their immediate thought is, oh my God, you're gonna fail. Oh my God, there's no way you can do that. Oh my God, are you crazy? Who do you think you are? Right? And the thing that causes the most damage are the comments and the energy coming from these people who love us. Mm-hmm. Because what happens is that when we share our dreams, first of all, in order to share a crazy dream or a crazy goal or a crazy desire, one usually does it with people that we trust and love. We don't just walk up to a stranger and tell them, hey, guess what? Yeah. Right? So it's usually in a very safe environment, or at least we feel that we're in a safe environment, but then the wakata comes, right? Because now we're open, we're vulnerable, we're willing to put ourselves out there with our desire. And then the hit comes. Isn't it lovely when it comes from your mom? When it comes from your dad or your siblings or someone in your family, and you get are you crazy? I mean, I'm going to ask you what things you've gotten in your life when you've shared your dreams, but it's in that vulnerability that the reticular activating system in the brain, and we're going to have a whole episode on the reticular activating system, but the RAS, which is it's a network of neurons. That's the gatekeeper in our life. It's the filter through which we see life. And that reticular activating system, or RAS, has been programmed by genetics, by environment, by family, by your teachers, by the culture you grew up in, by even the area of town you live in, because there's different ideologies depending on environmental locality or geography, right? And so we have this filter that sometimes can be the worst thing for us, because it won't let in new ideas or new concepts or new ways of seeing life that could really change our lives forever. But because we're so programmed to believe, like if you're in Saudi Arabia and you're wearing a hijab, what is it called, or a burqa, and you believe that that's the right way to do it. If you see somebody from the US in tiny little shorts and a little bandeau, you're horrified. And it's something that you could not do, even if you felt like you wanted to, because there's such a strict programming within you in order to literally survive, right? It's a survival thing. Look at what just happened to what was her name? Masa Amini. Amini, who wasn't wearing the veil properly and was killed. So basically our RAS is a primal system that is built in, that can be amazing to keep us alive, but not necessarily to allow us to succeed or open our minds to new ideas. But what happens when you put your guard down and you're vulnerable and you're sharing with the people that you love, and they tell you something like you're crazy, it's the RAS. It goes straight to the heart. Literally goes straight to the heart or your power center in your stomach. And if we're not completely grounded and settled in,
Exactly,
it can shatter our dreams. It can shatter us.
yeah.
Right. So what were your comments on it? We were like, oh my God, that's really a danger zone, right?
Well, and I think you said it so well. Like for me, I know if I was going to my loved one saying, this is something I'm thinking about, like and like you said, if you're not grounded in it, if I wasn't 100% confident the way I would be, like with uncertainty, and I went to my spouse or went to my parents or whatever, I'm looking for that, like that confirmation, like, yes, you can do this, or, we believe in you, or that's a great idea. And then when you don't get that, it honestly does just shake you. And it goes back to like what you're saying, when you're younger. I remember the biggest thing I would hear, and I love my parents, with all the, like, I have so much love for them. But what I would hear is like, that's a pipe dream, right? Like I would express my desire to become an actress, and it was, well, that's a pipe dream. Like, because of where I live, I don't live in Los Angeles. I live in Pembroke, Ontario, Canada, small little town. The opportunities aren't here. Like, it was all these excuses why it wouldn't happen for me. And as an adult, I look back and think, well, fuck, not all actors and actresses grew up in Los Angeles. Like, there are like people from all over the world that became, successful actors and actresses. And I only learned that at, like, looking back as an adult and realizing like this was a belief that I took on, was like, that was a pipe dream. It can't happen for me. And any dream or desire that I had would be like, if it was something on a grander scale, I looked at it as, well, that's a pipe dream. It'll never happen. Like, that doesn't happen for people like me. That doesn't happen in our area. No one else has done it. Why could I do it? And then if we go to those family members or a spouse or whoever, and we're looking for that confirmation, and then we get this, because in our brain, there might be that little bit of doubt, even though we're like 90% sure, yes, this is what I want to do. This is going to be so great. But there's like that little bit of doubt. And when we have them confirm that doubt, it brings down our confidence and our ability to do it. And yeah, that to me is the danger zone, because like you're losing out on like running with your dreams, and you're probably going to look back one day and be like, fuck, why didn't I just go for it and not listen to the voices that were trying to keep us quote unquote safe, rather than the idea of like, let's just go for it and try it. Right. So
Yeah. Yeah. And then what happens is, we all have our little voices, right? And we don't just have one voice. Okay. I wish we had one voice. We have, and it's not even like the two voices of the little angel and the little devil on one shoulder, right? Telling you, oh yeah, you can be good, no be bad, no be good, no be bad. No, it's not that at all. We have doubts, we have insecurities, we have the imposter syndrome voice, we have the who do you think you are voice, we have the I'm not good enough voice, I'm not worthy voice. We can create a whole set of characters from our little voices. And if there's one little voice that's saying, oh my God, you're crazy, and then what you hear out loud from somebody that's reflecting that back to you, notice that, because that little voice is looking for someone to back it up so that it can get someone on their side to see, I told you, see, I told you. And you get the, oh my God, you're crazy in the exact same voice from that particular little voice. Then it's like, see, told you so, told you so, told you so. And what happens is that your gut instinct or your connection to source, now we're like, oh my God, the primal survival instinct voice that is trying to protect us from disappointment, from hurt, from failure, starts to feed our fear. And it gets so large that the actual inspired voice starts getting softer and softer, and the volume goes down, and it gets to the point where it just goes, why even bother? If the little voices there's too many small voices working against me, and she's just not listening to me, so I'm just gonna go have a nap, right? And that's when it's our duty to hear that voice and honor it, especially when it tells you, go make this phone call, go into that store, make a right here. Whatever it is that it's guiding you, it will never lead you astray. But the more we listen to that voice, the louder it starts to get, but we have to exercise it. And when we get the little voice, it's about telling the little voice, thank you for sharing, but take the weekend off.
You're fired. Bye.
Or you're fired. Or shut up. You've experienced that as well, right? I think we've all experienced it.
Excuse me. Oh yeah, for sure. And it's funny that all of the voices that you just talked about, I had all of the voices, and that's why I would go to my family members, because I wanted them to quiet the voices, but they just made the voices louder. Like, oh, why would you want to do that? Oh, well, that's crazy. And so it would just shut me down completely, because I was always looking for that validation or that certainty that's outside of myself, and I was never getting it. So I would do nothing, because that was just the easier and safer way to live life, is just, well, I don't want to fail, and I don't want to not be good, and well, that person's so much better. And, it just fed into that. So it was really just within the last year or so where I started realizing that all of that that I was looking outside of myself was, I had to look at my inside to find it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just, that was terrifying, because now I'm trying to, follow my own voice. But, working with you ladies, that's when I really realized how much I was depending on, like, my mom or my dad to tell me that, this is going to be incredible. And then they never would. So
Mm-hmm.
it was just like, oh, I guess I shouldn't do that then, because, well, they just confirmed it, that it's not going to work. And I could be really fired up about something and it's gone. So
Yeah.
In an instant, right?
Yeah.
Like it's instantaneous, like
Yeah.
it's a sudden death.
Right.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. Sudden death.
And to be able to build that up again takes so much of your being. And I have found that when we get the calling or the voice tells us to do something, I imagine it as these doors. Did you ever see that movie Sliding Doors?
Yes.
Like the doors have to match up.
Gwyneth Paltrow, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I don't remember the whole premise of the movie, but I remember it's called Sliding Doors. And it's like, and I imagine life to be like that. It's like this carousel.
Mm-hmm.
But then we have this door, right? And so sometimes when we're lucky and when we're exercised or following our gut, basically, the doors will match up more. And that's the synchronicities in life, right? They'll start to match up more and you'll get more of those synchronicities because the doors start opening. Your door opens and that door opens. And then you're taking that, you're stepping through into the next level and the next level and the next level. But sometimes we're so afraid and our doors are open and we're like there and we're seeing the opening and we're there. And then the people are like, you're going to fail, you're going to this, you're going to that. And we get paralyzed. And then the door shut and the carousel keeps moving. But then we miss the opportunity.
Yes.
And sometimes the opportunities come again, but they're never the same.
Yeah. And something when you were talking, it made me think of this. Like, sometimes I think we are actually looking for the small voices to be validated because we want to keep ourselves safe. Like sometimes we're afraid of success and we're afraid of that next thing. And it's like, oh, if someone confirms that tiny little fear, then it's like, yeah, okay, well, now I don't have to do it. Right. Whereas if they were like, yeah, go for it. You're like, oh my God, now I got to do the scary thing because no one's giving me any out or excuse not to do it.
Right. Nobody's telling you, you better get it done.
Yeah.
No matter what. Right. Because most of us in general, and I don't know why the programming is such, and that's why the people who have the non-fear programming in them can be so successful, I find. For example, love him or hate him, Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like nobody told him he could fail ever.
Yeah. I think.
Because he's been broke. He's been like lost everything and brought himself back with zero. And it's like, you see people like that. I'm like, holy cow, can I borrow some of your confidence? Which it should be an exercise we do, borrowing confidence of the people that we look up to, because it works. And start training so the small voices are there and they're all looking for validation. But when we have the doubt, these small voices get empowered.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, okay, it's all fear-based, right? Because we don't want to fail. Looking good is something that's really important for human beings. Can't look bad. You can't lose face. You got to save face, right? You can't make someone lose face.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't ridicule someone and make them look bad because you're going to be in so much trouble. because there's also a part of us that still doesn't know how to laugh at ourselves
Mhm.
and how to accept the perfection in our imperfection, right? And to accept that we can make mistakes. Have you ever said something and felt such shame that you feel the red just, and you have tomato face
Mhm.
from shame? That is a feeling that is so darn uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right? So we will do pretty much anything to not have that experience if you've experienced it, especially when you're little. Like, because we live like a 5-year-old our lives, the entire life, unless we make a decision to change that. We're living from our 5-year-old and we want to be safe. And that's how we pick our partners. And that's how we pick our life partners, our business partners. It's like we're looking for that safety that keeps us small.
I have a question for you ladies. Have you ever done that to someone else? Like, have you ever reacted to somebody the way, like, and validated that small voice that might be in their head? Or have you been more of the like encouraging type? I know for me, like I'm reflecting on that. I'm like, I would never do that, but I'm like, have I done that? Like, I'm thinking here, I'm like, have I ever done that to someone? Have I like diminished their thoughts or dreams or ideas about something? And then my next follow-up question is like, why do we have that? Like, when I think about the people who in my life have done the things that were trying to keep me safe, it's like, what happened with them that they lost sight of their dream? Like, is it just they lost sight of their dreams, so they don't want us to be disappointed, so they're like, don't even dream, just because then you'll be disappointed? So I guess it's like a complex twofold question, but
Oh my goodness. I definitely know that I've done that, and I've not done that to be vindictive or, cruel, but I really truly felt like, oh, why no, that's
yeah,
too big, or that's too much, or we can't do that. And looking back, like you just said, I would never do that now, but I know that I've done that. And it's well, the second part that you just said, it made me think of an example of myself. And I've told you ladies about this, where when I was getting back into art, my mom, she's a really amazing artist, but she stopped. Therefore, everything I would tell her, oh, well, that's too hard. I was making a black and white painting. She's like, oh, you're probably going to be disappointed. That's really hard to do. And so a couple of years ago, I totally wouldn't have done it at all, but I went ahead and I did it, and it turned out amazing. But it's just like, she stopped herself and felt like, she was where she was at. And because I hadn't gone through the art path, like I did all of this on my own, that she probably didn't want me to be disappointed if if it didn't come out good, or, like I wanted it to. And that was really a lot to try to, accept that as for what it was, and not take that so personal that, that she wasn't supporting me. So
yeah.
it's
It reminds me of that saying. I don't know if you guys heard this too growing up, was like, or hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Yes.
And it's like, what?
whole-
Why am I preparing for the worst in life?
Right.
Yeah.
It is the perfect, disastrous recipe for manifestation.
Oh, I know.
Because guess what's going to happen if you have a plan B? The plan A will never happen. Your plan A will never happen, especially for us creative people who are like, want to be an actor. Oh, yeah, but go to school for something else, because when it doesn't happen, you're going to have something to fall back on. Well, guess what's going to happen to 99% of the people who have something to fall back on?
Yeah.
So why bother having a plan A? Go straight to plan B.
Yeah.
It's like just F plan A, because might as well, why waste your time dreaming on something and taking all the steps to create plan B, as opposed to going and focusing all of your energy, right? When I decided to become a professional actor, like I was a child actor. I did commercial, well, not child actor, I guess a commercial actor, right? I did a lot of commercials when I was little, and I loved it. When I did it, it would just make me feel alive. And by the time I got to be 12, I was getting very popular in the industry, because there were very few child actors, and they needed people to actually be relatively, be able to take direction. And I was an adult in a child's body. So I was very convenient for directors and stuff. I was also bilingual. And a lot of the directors I worked with were Americans, so they only spoke English. So they would always put me the lead role, and I would always be the director of the rest of the children, if there were any, or the adults who didn't speak English. I was the translator. And so I was always almost like the voice of the director. And I don't like to be bossy or anything, but I really I enjoyed directing people, giving them orders and telling everybody what to do. It was awesome for me. I am 5 or 6, and I'm like telling all these people what to do when I'm 5, and people would listen and would do it, because I'm just the director's voice. But imagine how empowering it is for a 5-year-old. Yeah. I remember I did an Oreo cookies for Canada commercial.
Oh, wow. I gotta find that.
Yeah, it was one of my first commercials, and we were at the zoo that's down the really near here, and it's and we were at the polar bear display, and so they were down in a thing, and the white walls, it's like the white pretending to be the ice tundra walls would come up, so we had to hide. And then when the director called it, we had to come up and look at the bears, right? And be like, oh, the bears. The bears weren't even there, because whatever. So we had to pretend that the bears were there, and we're looking at the bear display. And so I was the captain, and I would just, like, the director they gave me a little chicharito, a little, thing where they would talk in my ear, an earpiece. And the director's like, okay, Hannah, go. And I'm like, and I'd be like, everybody go, and I would count them down, and I would just get them to do this at the same time. And so it was super fun and super empowering. Plus I was treated differently than all the other kids. Mm-hmm. And so I was respected, because there in Mexico, not a lot of people were bilingual at that time. So having that extra language was a really amazing tool for me, and something that I will always be so grateful to my mom for, because she was always so concerned about us having other languages. Like, I learned French when I was 6 or 7 or 8 at school, and elementary school was my 3rd language. And so that always opens your vision, right? Just having that extra language and being able to communicate, but being able to communicate with adults at a par level. Yeah. Was something really important to me. Like, I never grew up with any children around me. But by the time I was 12, my dad, I remember I was doing this Pepsi commercial, and he was like, enjoy it because it's your last one. And I was like, what do you mean it's my last one? And he's like, yeah, you're not missing school anymore. Mm. And it literally broke me. My astrology chart, you could see a major break. My friend who's an astrologer showed me where there's a major break, like almost like a phoenix rebirth, that I had to just completely shift. Thankfully, I'm a Pisces, somewhat I was able to adjust. Yeah. But it literally killed a part of my soul not to be able to continue on that path. But then it always stayed with me, and I always wanted to do that. So when I was 39, I was done with this whole thing. I'm like, I am going to be an actor. I don't care, because I don't want to get to 60 and think coulda, shoulda, woulda, because the idea of having the regrets was killing me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to do this, even if I fail, because at least I'm going to have tried.
Yes.
Like if it doesn't work, I already have it guaranteed that it's not going to work because I'm not trying. So it's already not working. I'm already on that path. Now, can I make something different out of it? And I went to my husband at the time and I was like, I quit. You quit what? I quit the agency because we had a design and marketing strategy agency that was starting to get very, very specialized on airlines. And I didn't want to go paint planes, and it's cool and everything, but that wasn't what lit me up. It lit my husband up, but it wasn't what made me, alive. And I said, I quit the agency. And he was like, you own it. He was like, what? It's like, yeah, you can't quit something that you own. And I'm like, well, I'm telling you now, I'm quitting. He told me that aliens had stolen my brain and that he didn't understand what was wrong with me. And then in the end, I was so determined, because he didn't know the second part that was coming, that he said, okay, in 2 years, when it doesn't work, please come back to reality. And I said, okay, sure. But tomorrow, can you pick up our baby from school? Because I have booking. I'm already booked for a commercial.
That's awesome.
My first audition with my friend Fernando, he took me. He told me, you're going to slate. I was like, what the heck is a slate? You're going to say your name to camera, then you're going to do your profiles. You're going to look, you're going to do your other profile. You're going to look, and then you're going to wait for instructions. And then they're going to tell you to do something, and you're just going to do it. I'm like, well, okay, that seems easy enough. He opens the door, pushes me in after telling me this, pushes me in, and I'm like, oh, hello. And there's a room full of people. I'm like, holy cow, I have to look at camera and do all these things. Needless to say, I didn't get that audition. However, when we left, he gave me 2 pieces of advice, and he said, go in and give it your best. And when you come out, forget you ever went. Leave it there and don't start waiting for the phone call, because they're going to tell you, oh, you were great. Oh, I'm sure you're going to book this, da, 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 da. There's so many people involved that you go and you believe the casting director. And he said, I have spent days by the phone waiting for it to ring, because a casting director told me how great I was and how I was for sure going to book this. He goes, I wouldn't leave my house. There were no cell phones at the time.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't leave my house because they're going to call me. They're going to call me for this. And the call never came. So ever wait for the call, even if they tell you, like, even if they put me on hold now in New York, I'm like, whatever, they put so many people on hold that I just laugh about it. At least in Miami, which was very maligned and criticized, if they put you on hold, it means it was 2 people or 3 people max that they were trying to figure out if they're having to choose a husband and a kid, and like they're trying to make these groups of a family that's going to look similar. Yeah. So sometimes it's just about that one thing. And the kids have blue eyes and they wanted a blue-eyed mom. Like, literally, it's nothing personal, right? It's what works. And then you might be the piece that works some days and others not so much. And he's like, I'm going to take you to my agency. I walked in and the lady takes one look at me and she said, are you signed with anybody? No. She pushes a contract over to me. She's like, well, now you are. And Fernanda's like, see, I told you you're going to be a great mom. Like, okay, great. I left. An hour later, she calls me on the phone. She says, you have an audition tomorrow. Can you make it? It's a voiceover audition. I'm like, of course I can make it. You think I knew anything about voiceovers then? I had directed them and I worked in an agency where I had the blessing of being able to be near that. But I had no idea what I'm supposed to be doing. I went there. I booked it. I was like, beginner's luck. For sure, beginner's luck. Then after that, I went straight to my husband. I said, I quit. And then he was like, in 2 years, when it doesn't work out, you're going to get back to reality. I said, yes, but tomorrow you have to look after our daughter because I'm going to be working already. And I literally, from that point on, never stopped working. I was so blessed. I think the first year I did about 50 commercials on camera, all principal. It was like one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other. And then
Amazing.
11 happened and people were completely out of work that summer. People were having such a bad time. I do not think I've ever worked more than that spring and summer right after 9/11.
Wow.
I booked so many commercials that I would walk into the audition room and all that now were all my friends now, because Miami also was like this big and there were like 20 actors that we were all doing and getting all the roles and whatever. And I would come in and they would be like, Hannah, I'm begging you, leave us a friend of mine one day I walked in, he's like, can you throw us a crumb, please?
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, why? It's like, and she's like, last week because they would watch all the commercials. I've been terrible at it. I just followed my gut and I've never tried to imitate anybody else or watch commercials to do what everybody else was doing. I think that was a piece that helped me. I never watched TV anyway. People would ask me, do you watch the soap and this soap? I'm like, I know I do soaps. I don't watch soaps. It's like,
Yeah.
and I truly believed it, right? And he said last week I was doing my research, and every channel I would turn, all the Spanish channels, is like every channel you were on there. Like, you have the Publix commercial, you have the whatever and the Home Depot and the phone company. I don't even remember what it was, Singular, and all these things. And I was like in every single commercial, and it happened that he was watching it. And at the same time, I was in 3 or 4 different channels
Wow.
with a different product. He's like, what the heck? What are you doing? And I was like, I don't know. I'm just lucky. Right.
Now I have a question. Did your husband then ever come around and get behind you and support you on it? Like once you were like getting all these jobs?
No. Interestingly, yes and no. Okay.
Okay.
It's weird because it's very it was very confusing to me.
Mm.
I also am a singer, but I was a closet singer for many, 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 many years. The only people who knew I sang were my teacher, the walls in my shower, and my car. It's where I would practice. The acoustics in the shower, just phenomenal. And in my car, I was safe. I never wanted to break anybody's ears, and I had this whole trauma that came from childhood whatever. And so I was very guarded and very careful showing people that I actually could sing. I have a very wide range, and people see me and they can't. And then when I start singing, I don't know what it is. I guess I just have this persona of somebody that couldn't sing a note. And then when I start singing, people are like shocked. And finally, I'm like, I'm going to sing. I would get so sick before going on stage that I would have to throw up. I literally would physically throw up until I was able to have nothing left in my stomach. And I was able to stomach some water or something to just like give me the illusion of being like not floating around or not about to pass out.
Yeah.
And I would get on stage and my knees would shake so much that they would be the castanet part of the song. Because they were like, it was I don't know what they were called. You know, those little, very dangerous.
Yes.
That people would do the taka 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 taka. Yeah, that were my knees doing
Oh
that.
my God.
And I was like, and then my voice would sound like that. And I was like so mad at myself because I knew I could sound so good, but then my voice wouldn't obey me. It's like there's no, like it would betray me, right? And then my husband was like, why do you do this to yourself?
Mm.
And he knew when he asked me the reason behind what I did, he knew better that when I said, I don't know, he knew he couldn't fight me on that
Okay.
because it was something bigger than myself that was making me do it.
Yeah.
It wasn't my brain, because my brain was telling me, what the are you doing? Just stop torturing yourself. I mean, I was to the point that one of the teachers in school told me, because I would go to school for musical theater. I was full-time at the University of Miami studying marketing and design, advertising, communications, right? So I had 2 majors and a minor. I would have to get overrides. I was like doing 21 credits per semester. I was working part-time as an assistant art director, and I was in hiding going to school for musical theater part-time. Because that's how much I wanted it, right? It didn't matter that I didn't sleep. It didn't matter that I was working like at all hours, but I would find the way I would make my schedule from school give me the 2 hours or the 3 hours in between, so I can go take a dance class, go take a musical theater class, go do and start accumulating credits. Eventually I went back to school full time. But one time a teacher told me to take a beta blocker, which is really dangerous if you're stressed and you have stage fright. Don't do that. Find a natural way, like for example, a rescue remedy by Dr. Bach, right? Don't do beta blockers. It can give you a massive heart attack. And I would just take beta blockers that I found a drugstore that would sell me this without a prescription in Miami. And I would just pop the pills so I could get through it. But I would get through it. My heart felt like it was going to explode out of my chest still. But I was able to take the edge off and control it, and my voice would do what I would tell it.
Mm.
That experience started informing my brain that I was able to do that.
Mm.
Eventually, very quickly, I got off the beta blockers because I don't pop pills. Like it's going against everything. But I just knew I needed to have some help to get myself through the hump of the total stress and the throwing up and all the horribleness that came along with it. And then I started to sound good. I finally did a show. I did my first live show. It was like almost like a cabaret kind of thing at this restaurant in Doral in Miami. And it was very famous for all these artists that would go and perform there, and they would get really big and famous. So I had my first show there, and I would go rehearse at my musical director's home because the piano was there, and we worked and worked and worked there. And so I wouldn't be home a lot at night because I would do my rehearsals. My daughter was asleep. I would go rehearse. Well, the day after my show, it was so amazing, and everybody was just like shocked that it was so good that the next day, an electric piano that sounded like a real piano, a really amazing Yamaha piano, was delivered to my house. And it was my husband's gift to me. So I could have my musical director and the musicians come to our house and me not have to be driving at night, really late by myself. So it was his way of encouraging me. And I literally, that piano now, Onel has it. That's a piano that Onel came to get in Philly that I couldn't let go of.
Oh, wow.
Such a beautiful gift that I received from my husband. So he wanted me to be a singer, but he wanted me to just focus on singing.
Mm. Okay.
But the opportunities for acting were showing up.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, you have to focus on one thing because it's the only way you're going to succeed. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know, it's a blessing and a curse. I can't focus on just one thing because I get bored.
Yeah.
And then I get stuck. I get to a plateau. And sometimes for me, it's better to walk away from it, because when I come back to it, then I do the quantum leap onto the next level, because I don't
Yeah.
push so hard. Right?
And a renewed like excitement for it.
Yeah, well, it's not even that. I always have the excitement, but I don't push so hard, because I want to barrel through things. I want to make them happen. I'm just like, I want to. And that's why I talk to you guys so much about pretzeling yourself and turning and contorting yourself to make things happen, because I am an expert.
Yeah. Well, and the reason why I asked you that was because what I've noticed is the more that I'm like just doing the thing, and like this is something we've talked about before, is like the idea of like go after it and then tell people, right? And when we can start to build up our confidence in what we're doing, like you did, you already had that gig booked when you told them like, hey, I'm quitting, and by the way, I have a gig tomorrow, so you have to pick up our daughter. Like when we have that confidence going in, like, okay, there's more certainty in us, and no matter what they say, even if it was that little voice that was in our head, that won't gain any traction, because we're already off and running with like our desire and our dream. And what I've noticed is like even my family or like Andrew, my spouse, like with the support, they're more apt to support you than to bring up that little voice. I don't know if it's just being around us and like because we're more certain.
Show them, when you show them how serious you are,
Yeah,
then you can get your team.
yes. But I've noticed the difference between people who are in my close proximity, who are seeing me in this energy all the time, and people who I'm not around as much. They're still like family or whatever. And if I tell them something after the fact, they're coming in with like those, oh, well, you're not, like even us, we're moving. And then like I waited to tell people. And then when I told one of my aunts, she's like, oh, you're not going to like living there like you as much as you like living here. Like what? Like it was this weird, I'm like, before that would have been something that I would have been like, oh my God, is this true? And now it's just like, well, no, it's their thought, right? It's not my thought, it's their thought. And even though that thought might have been there, I know for this it wasn't, but before it might have been something that came up for me, that gained zero traction because I'm in that certainty. But I've noticed, and I don't know, Stacia, if you noticed that, like the difference between you going into something already in that certainty and that confidence, like, is it different with your parents, or is it the same? And then they're just like, that doesn't affect you the same because you're just more certain when you do go to them with that information.
Yeah. I think something that Hannah said while she was talking is really the key. Don't take it personally. And once I stopped taking everything so personally, we've talked about this in our meditations. It's like, oh my gosh, I thought that my childhood was all about me, and here my parents had their own lives and their own thinking, and it had nothing to do with who I am. So that really, just letting that go, getting rid of that story where I can now have somebody completely think I'm insane, but then I do it anyway. And they're like, wow, you did that. I'm like, of course I did that, because that's what I decided.
Yes, that's huge.
Yes, and that's huge, because then what happens is that our source voice, which is the purest voice, which is the essence of who you are, the one that's going to bring you into your zone of genius, like Sarah calls it, what I call the ikigai, right? That area of what your vocation is, what you love to do, what you're good at doing. Then you're living in that space, and who cares what anybody else thinks?
Yeah.
And when we begin to understand that we are all living a singular, individual, personal life, a singular, individual, personal life. And it doesn't matter about the half orange or the the person that will complete you. There's nobody that can complete you. You are already wholeness. You are
Mhm.
all, but it is the acknowledgement of that and the understanding and the acceptance that even if somebody that you adore, that is like what makes you feel like you are able to breathe, is your air in your life. Even the air in your life is not you.
Mhm.
It will never be you. And you have your own individual path that you have to go through. And people will come into your life and then can walk alongside you for a while or forever, depending on how lucky we are or how unlucky. But they can come into your life and they'll never be on that same track.
No.
Even if they're parallel, even if you're going like this, it's never like this. It never will be. And then you begin to listen to your own true calling and to your true essence and to your true whatever lights you up.
Mhm.
And start to follow it. And then that voice gets so loud that nothing, even a freaking orchestra, you could be in Grand Central Station with people screaming at you 20,000 different things about how unworthy you are, how you could never accomplish this, how this is ridiculous, how you're insane, how you're crazy, how you're this, how you're that, how you're not good enough or not this, or don't have the brains to do it, or don't have the whatever. And it doesn't matter because it's also not personal.
Yeah.
Because they're
Maybe.
from their own reality. And before, and those, and I'm sorry, Sarah, but
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
those voices in you start disappearing because they lose the force, just like that source voice had been quiet. It's like these voices are all now having a peaceful slumber, and they won't even bother you anymore because you're vibrating at such a frequency that everything that's not vibrating at that level, you're so strong in it that it just vibrates off and it just breaks off and
Yes.
falls off and out of your life.
Yeah. I love that. What I was going to say is maybe for the listener though, we could give them, like, from each of our point of view, like what we've done to be able to get to that point where we're vibrating at that frequency. Because I know for me, it was surrounding myself with other people who had big dreams, big desires, and were going after them. And like being able to dream without, and have those dreams encouraged, right? So that was a big thing for me, was surrounding myself with different people. And it wasn't that I just completely cut off ties with those other people. I just didn't, I really had to build up my strength and my mindset around all of it to get to the point where when I would hang out with them again, that it wouldn't shake me and bring me back down. So I was, like you said, vibrating at that frequency that it didn't matter what shit they were spewing, or, they were on this negativity train about like why things won't work or why their things aren't working. But it was like, that was, like you say, I love the way you described it. It's like it was bouncing off. But it started with me, like, honestly, one of the big things was like surrounding myself with other people like you ladies who it was like, oh, it's safe to dream here. It's safe to think big. It's safe to go after things. Like, this is a different energy. Like, let me feel into this. Let me try things and just see. And, things might work, they might not, but at least I'm trying. Right. So I'm curious what you guys have done, that maybe the listeners can start doing as well.
Yeah, I pretty much did exactly what you said, surrounding yourself with people that were like-minded and people that would support you without feeling that need to, have you do it their way. They were just seeing you for who you are instead of, what they're wanting you to become. And a big thing also for me was, I was always putting these meanings, these attachments to everything. So letting go of, what am I making this mean, was really huge, because I was making everything mean so much more than it really needed to. And of course, I just dove into a lot of mindset development the past few years, and it's just really changed my life. I'm going to jump ahead. I have a quote. Something that, I work a lot with this Dr. Ram he passed away from India. But one of the things that he said that really stood out to me is the quality of your life depends on the quality of your questions. And that was like, getting clear with yourself, because it's so easy to decide that, what you think everybody else wants. But it's like, you've got to sit with that and really figure out, is that what you want? And that has really helped me so much, within this since the summer, since we really started actively working on this amazing magic that we've been creating with the three of us. So Sarah's throwing herself around.
It was so exciting. Vibration was so high that
she vibrated it right off the thing.
She vibrated off the set.
Oh my goodness.
So it's one of the things that for me has been instrumental is getting out of judgment, which is the same labeling stuff, right? And like Stacia said, giving it meaning. And I've always been a person that takes everything very seriously. Baking a cake is something really serious. Like if it doesn't rise, it's like it's a whole issue. Like, and I would put it at the same level as like somebody passing away that I loved. It's like there was this huge, almost like everything had the same amount of importance. And learning to just let go of most of the things. Like meditation, what it gave me is the ability to let go of everything and be attached to nothing. And I've had my lessons in letting go of physical stuff and letting go of friendships and letting go. And like I do a yearly cleaning of friends. It's like a closet cleaning, but I do it with friends and the people that I get on.
Yeah.
Like if I'm not bringing something of value to them, and if they're not bringing something of value to me, and they keep getting, and sometimes it's the intention is so clearly set that those people just leave out of their own accord, or something happens. Like if I wait too long, if source is telling let go of this person, you have to let go of this person, and I'm like, but I love them, but there's attachment to it, right? Something has always happened, and they just disappear. Yeah. And not without a fight, or them calling me names, or something crazy happening. And I'm like, yeah, I just waited too long. I knew this had to be done. And it's like by choice or by force, right? The universe will let you, if you express your desire clearly, the universe is going to hand it to you. But if you're not letting go of the garbage bags, like I tell you, then your hands are tied and they're occupied with the garbage. So the universe is like going to shake the garbage off your hands so you can open your hands and receive. Yeah. And so by choice or by force. So when we get crystal clear on what we desire, there's just no way it won't happen. Yeah. Just people don't know what they want.
Yeah. Oh, that's such great. I love that. And I love all our perspectives. And I think those are like anybody listening. And I think the big takeaway here too is like if there's something that you are wanting to do or desiring to do, like there's always going to be, you've heard from all of us, we have those voices in our heads. We have those voices from other people. We have other people's fears and ideas of like going after it. Like I think of like your husband saying like in 2 years when it doesn't work, but it's like, well, if I don't do it in 2 years, I would be in the same position, even if it didn't work. So it's like this big fear of, I feel like that could be a whole topic, like this fear of failure over like just going for something. Right. And it's like, what are we so afraid of? But I think if we can begin to really like look at what we want, start to surround ourselves with those people, like you guys who are listening to this, you're already in a space where you're going to be elevated because you're listening, you're here with us, right? Our energies are connected, and
There are no accidents.
there's no accidents, right? And you're going to be, you're already going to be vibrating at a different frequency. And that's what's going to propel you forward for everything. And everything that we're going to talk about on this podcast, it's like everything's in like connected. And that's why we're like, we could probably talk to you for like, I don't know how many hours straight, because every subject leads into another subject that we're talking about. Right. So this is a little piece for you to like, just take and really, I think it's a big one, and a big one to start with, because it's so easy to stay safe and to stay in what, like that reality of what everybody else's perception is, instead of just going after what we actually want. But we're living proof that you can do it and it's safe and it's okay, and good things happen to it. And that ripple effect, which this is, right, it's called the ripple effect, happens with the other people in our life. And just like I said, for me, like my family and how they react to things, and like your husband buying you the piano, right? And like everything, it's just, everything has that ripple effects. So
yes. And when you're clear, the universe will respond. No guts, no glory.
yes, I love that. Well, thank you everyone for being here, for listening. We're so excited to come back and chat with you guys again next week. And I think that's everything.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to The Ripple Effect by the Alliance with Hannah Martinez,
Stacia Stove,
and Sarah Jane Lita. We hope you're now vibing high and ready to create your own ripple.
Drop a comment or email to let us know the ripple effect that you are creating.
Music by our very own Hannah Martinez, and music production by Onel Moulet.
Follow us on Instagram at The Ripple Effect Pod for more high vibration content. Please rate and review us wherever you listen. Until next time.